What do you want to do in life?
What would you do if you were independently wealthy?
Hey, Brett Chittum with Lawrence Systems, and I'm here with,
Jason Slago, CWR.
hey, it's Business Technicalities, and I have no idea what episode we're on. And I don't care because I think we're giving good content, right?
I didn't know we were numbering them.
I didn't know either. I mean, no, it's funny because Tom numbers his episodes,
Yeah,
so it's kind of
I,
funny. At some point, maybe we might want to go back
yeah.
and start doing
I
that.
think it's the seventh
Um,
or eighth we've done.
it's been a few. It's been fun. But let's get to the topic at hand because I know we both have a lot to do today. We're talking about hiring, right? And it's a hot button for you. It's been a hot button for me. It's hard to hire, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I think we should start this with a little bit of a disclaimer that what we're going to talk about has worked for us. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll work for you, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of personality and personal preference in how you hire and fire people. So
Mhm.
we're just sharing our experiences over the years, and if they work for you, then if what you're doing isn't working out, give them a try.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's one of the things that you and I were talking about last night or yesterday at some point was culture, right?
Yeah.
Culture fit is important, and I liked what you said. So you tell me about culture is more important than.
Yeah, so we've over the years, we've usually try to hire on culture, right? So
Mhm.
I'll bring somebody in. Our interviews are probably typically not like the normal interviews. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe we're just really bad at interviewing. We'll ask some questions. Usually, we'll ask a couple technical questions. But really, I want to know if we get along, right? And I want to
Right.
know two things: if you'll be a good cultural fit for the company, and if you seem to have a desire to learn new knowledge. Because those are the most important things to me. Like what you know
Mhm.
now, it while it's useful, especially in a technical role, it's useful for you to know things. It's hard for me to hire, say, a software developer that doesn't know how to code,
Yeah.
but it's the exact skills I need are learned, right? So if I was hiring for C# role, maybe I'll pick up a Java developer because they understand the concepts. If they're a good Java developer and they're a cultural fit, it's not a huge lift to move from one to the
Right.
other.
No, it's culture is important. I've worked for many places that, talk about having a culture, and the culture is more of culture of fear.
Yeah,
And I
cultural
know
toxicity.
I've been around you and I've seen your guys, and I don't think it's that kind of a culture. It seems
No.
we have
It,
fun at
it,
Lawrence, right?
yeah, we try to have fun. It's getting harder as we grow.
Mhm.
I've had a couple instances recently where is I am less involved in the day to day. Now sometimes people view me as the big bad boss, and it's like I'll mention something, and everyone's like jumping to do it, and it's like, no, I'm just mentioning it because it needs mentioned, not because I'm
Yeah.
angry or cranky about it. So it's going to be a challenge as we grow to maintain that culture. But yeah, I think we have a good one. I think our guys mostly have and gals mostly have fun together and mostly enjoy working, and those are two things that I really care
Yeah.
about.
Well, and that the people gotta like to come to work every day, right? They've gotta want to come to work, but they also have to like to come to work. The want usually happens with money, but as you go along in the company, that money becomes less and less important when you're going to work and you're stressed out, or you're going to work and you just don't feel like being there, right?
I
Well,
mean, we work in an industry where I can almost always, for any particular role, somebody can almost always go get more money, right? Because I
right,
can't compete with the giant enterprise companies. And even here in Toledo, right? We're not a huge
right.
city, but even here in Toledo, there are several Fortune 100 companies, definitely several Fortune 500 companies, and they can out pay what I can afford to
Right.
pay at my rates every day of the week, right? But big company money comes with big company problems.
Yes, it does. That's where the people go, they have an eye problem, they just can't see being there anymore, and, and really going about so, you and I were talking about questions a little bit yesterday, and then you mentioned it today. One
Yep.
thing I do is I ask 3 questions, in every interview, I'll ask at least these 3 questions, and I wrote them down just because, "Tell me about yourself."
Hmm.
That's a canned question, everyone
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone says, but it's important because I'm
Mhm.
looking how they're going to answer it.
Mhm.
I don't want them to tell me about their personal selves the whole time. I want to talk a little personal, but I want them to walk me through their resume without them looking at it
Yeah.
because that's important.
Yeah, I mean that's a we always ask that because as you said, it's
Mhm.
canned. It's but it's also probably one of the most scripted parts of the interview
Mhm.
process, right? So if I'm talking to somebody that's interviewed a number of places, they're going to answer that the same way that they answer it at every single place they go to. So
Right.
yes, it's important that they're able to tell me about their past, and then I like to hone in on a couple of those experiences
Mhm.
because you can read a lot reading between the lines on the resume.
Yeah, you talked about this company and you talked about doing this. Explain what you did there. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Get deep in it. The second question I always ask is, what do you want to do in life?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good one. Like what would you do if you were independently wealthy? Is another way to
That's a
another way
great
to
one.
phrase that I've sometimes used.
Mhm.
Right? Like, is it in a related field? Is your true passion? I'm on this fitness journey, and so I've been listening to a podcast. The one guy that was on the one podcast yesterday, he was a structural engineer. He designed 3D models of buildings, and just
Oh,
decided
cool.
that it paid good. It was okay, but it wasn't his drive. He went while he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do and got a PT, a personal trainer's license, and is like, I really love this. I could do this every day for the rest of my life. And so he did. And now he's morphed to an online coach. So I would
That
do what
and
I do. If I was
yeah,
independently wealthy, I would still do some version of computer tech stuff, right? Like I love it.
right.
It's my passion in life. And so it's a good match.
My thing is I do what I do at sales, right?
Yep.
Sales is what I love to do, whether it's widgets, insurance, IT, whatever it is. So the third question I ask, and I want to get to that question that you asked me yesterday because that was a good one. But the third question I always ask is define integrity.
Ooh, that's a really good one. I'll have to pull that one up. Like when next time we interview, I'll have to use that one.
Because when you think about defining integrity, it's different for everybody, but somebody should have an answer. And if they falter in that answer or they can't answer it, it means they don't have it. And that's an
Yeah.
important part. When you think about culture, you bring your group of people together, and if somebody has a lack of integrity, it starts to break that group apart. If they say they're going to do something and then don't do it, um, and it starts to cause chaos within a group. So that's my big what do you want to do with your life and integrity? Those are my two culture questions, right?
Yeah, that's good. I like those.
You
So we'll
had a
go to the one.
question.
Yeah,
I
we'll
loved
go to
your
the one that
question.
I asked. So mine it came from Microsoft or Google or something, but it's always stuck with me, and I've asked it to almost every single person I've ever interviewed, and it is why are manhole covers round? And it's a critical thinking question, right? Like I don't really
Um,
care what the answer to that is. I care about your process to get there. There is a correct answer. I won't say it. Brett figured it out yesterday when we were talking about this. Uh,
yeah.
but I mean, I think it's a good question to sit down now. Anyone that watches this video that interviews us for in the future will know they'll have an answer ready. So it's I've diffused it a little bit by saying it here, but I feel
That's
like
all
it's a
right.
good question of just trying to figure out how you think because that's really important to me is determining how you think. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
when we do technical interviews, when I do technical interviews, I am relatively technical, and the questions will get harder until you can't answer one because I don't care what you know. I
Hmm.
care how you figure out what you don't know.
Right. How you get to resolve, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Our most recent help desk guy watches a lot of Tom's videos, actually. So I mean, that was part of his how I learn things answer, and I'm
mhm.
like, okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about the people you bring in. Um, I'm interested to see in the comments as people, if people comment below what questions you might ask
Yeah.
because I think it's helpful. We're a community, right?
Yep.
We're trying to in the IT space, we're trying to build better companies, not just our companies, but everybody's company because that bad apple in any space is going to make us all look bad. So let's make everybody look better. Let's make everybody work better and grow. And I think hiring is one of the most important things you have to do as a business owner is bringing in those people, right?
Sometimes it's really hard to judge people by how they interview. We've had, and I don't know if I've shared this with you before, we have a pretty close relationship with the uh, careers department of the University of Toledo, right?
Hmm.
I'm adjunct faculty over there.
Right.
Our the chairman, or my business partner, is was for until he retired the chairman of engineering technology over there at the
Right.
University of Toledo, right? So, which is like the more technical, less academic path to an engineering degree. I don't have an
Hmm.
engineering ring on right now, but I have a degree that's back there. Actually, is
Yeah, I can see it right back in the back
my
wall.
bachelor's degree in engineering. So they would call us and they would have a candidate, and the lady would say, "Hey, I have a candidate. He's really good. He's like smart. He's a genius. He does really well in school. He just doesn't interview well, so no one will hire him. Will you talk to him?"
Mm,
And so we'd always talk to him. They'd usually come in dressed in a suit, which usually we make fun of when they leave. They turned out to be usually really good employees, right? Like they weren't necessarily good field techs, right?
hmm.
Like sometimes they were, but they were really introverted in many cases, and just they once they got to know people, they opened up and they did well. But they were really smart and had a really large desire to learn and thrive. They just had terrible anxiety around the interview process.
Right. Well, so you talk about introverts, and a lot of tech people are introverts, right? They don't like to do what we're doing. I mean, somewhat you're an introvert as well, right?
I'm an INTP.
INTP, there we go. And talk about culture and introverts.
Yeah,
I'm
I
putting you
mean,
on the spot here, totally.
it's so we have a number of people I would probably describe as introverted. My people have independently arranged
Hmm.
several different game things they do, right? They play Halo, I think, every Wednesday, and they're playing something on Fridays. And they self-organize that, and the everyone most of the tech people are participating in it, right?
Right.
And whether or not they're introverted, right? So some of that's just meeting people where they're at, giving them a little more space, giving them a little more room to grow, not
Hmm.
necessarily putting them on the spot where they have to go out to a customer site every day or on day one, right? There's definitely ways to foster that. And we're
Yeah.
a community, the tech community is a community of introverted people or extroverted introverts like myself,
Yep.
that it is possible to mentor people through that. And we shouldn't write people off just because they struggle to they awkwardly make conversation with people, or it stresses them out.
I agree. I totally agree. And like you said, some of those have been some of your best employees. It's I'm not sometimes I like someone that's really nervous in an interview because that means they actually care. I mean,
Yeah,
they
that's true.
want this job or they need it or whatever it is, but they actually care about where they're going and what they're going to do. People that come in, cocky and arrogant and just go or kind of turn me off a little
Those are
bit.
my
But
favorite.
well, no, you tear them apart. That's
Yeah,
why.
because I can out tech most of the people we interview. So yeah, again, the questions just keep getting harder.
Yeah, that's okay though. That's all
Yeah.
right. So, any last thoughts from you on hiring and what some good tips?
No, I mean nothing really comes to mind. Well, no, actually, one does kind of mind. If you have a business and you can find the time, I have found a good source of candidates for technical roles has
Mm,
been to adjunct faculty at the local university.
okay.
Teach a class part time, right? Get to know some of the students, and then I tell them that they should apply to co-ops for us, or I talk to them and see if they're looking, right? Like I think that's allowed. I'll probably get an email from the university saying I'm not allowed to do that, but I found it's a really good way to kind of learn about people. The other
Mhm.
piece of that is if your local university has a co-op or an internship program, that's an easy, low risk way to try people, right? Because
Right.
they usually are it's time boxed, right? So even if they're a bad hire, you're committed to them for only the period of that, and just don't bring them back. We've
Yeah.
hired a ton. Almost all of our technical people are graduates of the University of Toledo, and many of them have come through that program.
3 of ours are through EMU and a couple other ones around the area too. So it's that's that's a great tip because interns can really you get to see who they are for very low risk. Hey, business technicalities. Let's see you next week.
See you next week.